All right, guys, welcome to Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Today we are replacing general mentorship with a very special guest. Okay, we have the queen of live scan, Lisa Duffy, with us. She is a live scan and e-card fingerprinting expert. And I know that a lot of you are interested in becoming live scan agents. So there's no better way to learn how to get into live scan. And just so you know, I'll be learning a lot today too. By the way, guys, I have just replaced my computer monitors over the weekend. I now have lots of screens, a lot more than I normally have. I used to have the computer sitting right here. It's now all one big tower and monitor. So if I look like I'm looking off to different distances, I am just getting used to this. But I want to tell you a little bit about Lisa before we get started with this. First of all, she is a fellow Notary Star. She is dedicated to her craft as a notary, and she has really wowed me with her dedication to putting everything together. Now, we started asking questions about this a month ago. You guys wrote them in on Facebook, you guys emailed in questions, and we are doing this meeting today interview style, where we're going to take your questions that you wrote in, and we're going to ask Lisa in a kind of a chronological order. But as I've been working with Lisa over the last month, I want to tell you one of the things that I try very hard to do here at Notary Stars is to only bring people into the fold that actually have the best will for their fellow notaries or fellow business owners out there. I screen people left and right that want to present to Notary Stars, and I don't let them because I can tell the greed in their voice or the greed in their hearts. I really only let people here that have good nature, come into our mix. And I know that's why you keep coming back, because you have a trusting environment. With that said, I'm gonna pin Miss Lisa up, and you are made a co-host. And so let's see, we're gonna spotlight you for everybody. Hi, Miss Lisa, can you hear us?
I can.
All right. So let's get started with some questions. And, some of these are ones that we wrote down and then, we want to go into. So first of all, how long have you been a notary?
I've been a notary since 2015.
Okay. And you told me a little bit about this, but I want you to share that story here as well. How did you get into becoming a notary?
Well, let's see. So my background, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, and that is thanks to my dad, because he was one as well. He owned, right before he passed, he owned a very successful balloon event business in San Francisco. And so I've done pretty much everything. If you name it, I've probably tried it at least once. So at the time that I even learned about what a notary was, I was a mystery shopper for about 8 years, which included business inspections. And I was on an inspection at a lady's house. She was a real estate broker, working from her home. And so I had to go in and just verify that she had all of the requirements needed to be working from home, that she was a legitimate business. And so while I was there, she said, really bluntly, she was like, "Why are you doing those business inspections? You should be a notary." And I said, all due respect, notaries don't make any money. And she said, "Well, it's the loan signing aspect of it." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And so she explained it to me. And I immediately went back to my office and signed up.
I think a lot of us have stories like that where we find out, about this career, and the next day, we're signing up. That's, I shared my story with you last night. A very similar story. I went to dinner, and I never even got the cocktail to my mouth before they said how much a loan signing agent can make, and I sat back down, and I was like, where do I start? What other kind of services do you do outside of the fingerprinting, as a notary? What services do you have under the umbrella of your company?
I provide loan signing, of course, and apostilles and passport photos.
Okay. And how long have you been doing the live scan and fingerprinting?
Let's see, I got the official approval from the Department of Justice in August of last year.
Okay. And what made you get into fingerprinting altogether?
You know, in 2020, I put a down payment on my house because I couldn't pass up those interest rates. And then in 2021, my mom passed away. And, you know, I had always sort of entertained the thought of leaving my job and starting my own business. And when she left, I took the jump. I took the leap. I left my six-figure job. I started my LLC, and I added several businesses to my business. So that's where the fingerprinting, the live scan and ink card fingerprinting, and the passport photos and apostilles came from.
You mentioned something I want to ask. For the passport photos, do you need to do live scan in order to offer those, or are they completely separate?
It's completely separate, but there's, I'll get a lot of notaries who they come to me for live scan, and then while they're there, they get their passport photo for the Secretary of State as well.
Okay. And I want to ask you about fingerprinting, okay? Because, and this is something that I've learned, but I want to make sure it's clear to everyone because this is a journey, right? We're learning about something brand new. Everybody that's here, everybody's going to watch the replay is going to want to know. To my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are two types of fingerprinting. There is one that's called live scan and one that's called ink card fingerprinting, correct?
Yes, there's actually for the most part, yes, there's kind of four categories, but yes, they're either you're manually rolling or you're doing it on a machine.
Okay. And with that said, can you give us a rundown between the two types? Like, what's the difference between live scan and ink card fingerprinting? And why would a notary want to go the route, or do you want to do both?
So in each state, most states have live scan and ink card fingerprinting, but the live scan is within the state. So in other words, if you need a background check and live scan is requested, you can do it as long, or you can get it done as long as you're in that state. So if you, let's say you live in Florida and you need to get a background check done for a company and they send you out to get live scan, you can get it because you live in Florida. If you are in Florida and let's say you're, for example, a nurse and you need to be have your nursing license in Arizona, let's say, then that's when ink cards come into play because you can't get live scan in your state to send out of state.
Okay.
So the ink cards have to be sent out of state. So
Okay.
having said that, ink card is a physical card that the technician is manually rolling each of your fingers on a card, and that card gets mailed out to a different state. For live scan, you're rolling the person's fingers onto a glass plate that's lit up. It's a little, sort of looks like a box. And that is for something that you're doing within that same state.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. I want to ask you for, for the ink fingerprinting side of things. Well, actually, I understand live scan is, within the state, and then ink can be sent out of state. With that said, if you do ink fingerprinting, what is the demand for live scan? Can an employer say, I only want you to use live scan, or you have to use live scan, or can they get their fingerprints done by ink if they so choose to?
It depends on the state. Here in California, live scan is the only method that's done here in California. But I get tons of people that come to me, for firearms, or they're traveling nurses and they need to be licensed in other states. In those particular states, are saying to them, you need an ink card because you don't live in our state. So the ink cards are, they generate the FBI background check.
Okay.
Whereas live scan, it could be either or. It could be just the DOJ, which stands for Department of Justice. That is generally statewide, a statewide background check. So if you live, let's say you live in a particular state and they just want a DOJ background check, that means that they're checking what all the crimes, if you've done any crimes within that particular state. If it's FBI, they're checking nationwide. So all the crimes that were committed in any state, along with other things.
Okay. This is one that's not on the predetermined questions that I just thought of because we're about to move into, about the appointments kind of questions. If you had to conduct a loan signing or do a live scan appointment, which one would you rather do? I think that's really important for everybody that's watching.
Oh boy. I think, well, I can't really definitively answer that because they're just distinctly different. I mean, live scan hands down is 1,000 times easier and faster. You're making essentially, there's a range of pricing that you make depending on your area, your state. You want to be competitive, but essentially you're making anywhere from $15 to $50 in a matter of like 8 minutes. So it's really easy, it's super quick. But loan signings, you could make $200 in 30 minutes, depending on the type of signing it is. So it just kind of depends.
Got it. How long you said about 8 minutes for an appointment? Let's talk about the location. Do you need a physical location to provide live scan, or is it a viable business for mobile agents?
I know there's some states that require you to have a physical location. Here in California, I can be mobile. I am mobile. I provide mobile services to groups and to individuals. Sometimes they can't get out of the house or they just don't want to. And so they call me to come to their house or their job to do their fingerprinting. But I rent a co-working shared space. I pay $40 a month for a spot in the building, and people come to me. So I do both.
Okay.
Can
And
I
then
interject one quick question while we're talking about the difference between ink and fingerprinting? Just really quick. It's another one of those, I didn't think about this before until you started talking about it. Okay. Is there less chance for a rejected live scan fingerprint than there is a rejected ink fingerprint card?
Absolutely. Live scan is much more efficient. It allows you the ability to check the prints that you've taken and before submitting them to the FBI or the DOJ, and you have a chance to correct it if it doesn't look right.
Okay, so then that leads me to one other sub question. Is there less skill or practice involved in live scan versus
No,
same
no,
process?
you have to be able to, so experience is not a prerequisite to starting the business, but you absolutely need to learn how to roll fingers on, roll fingerprints.
Thank you.
now going along that same vein of business operations, notaries have to get used to getting paid 30 to 60 to 90 days working with signing agencies. What is the payment turnaround for a live scan appointment? When do you have your money in hand after you perform the service?
It's immediate because the applicant, which is the customer, is paying you right on the spot for the service. And here in California, we have to pay the fees for the DOJ and the FBI because they charge a fee for their background checks. And we as service providers, so I'm considered a private service provider. We as service providers collect that money for them on their behalf. So at the end of each month, I call the DOJ and they run my bank card to pay all the fees that I owe them, and the rest is mine.
Wonderful. So we're going to start moving into kind of the next section here of questions, and we do have quite a lot of them today, but I want to make sure we get through these and then still have time for Q&A because I know that people are going to have questions. Can you tell us, do you have a list of what states you can do live scan in versus fingerprinting? Do you have that information, or is it easily accessible?
I do. I have the list of the agencies for each state. As far as the live scan provider themselves. So like for me, if I wanted to start doing live scan in any other state, I have to get permission from the Department of Justice to do that before I can just pack up my stuff and go. I can live scan anywhere in the state of California, but to leave out of state, you have to get permission.
Okay, and we hear about notaries that are dual commissioned for 2 states. Can you be dually appointed to do fingerprinting in 2 states? Do you know if that's possible?
It is possible, but it has to be justified. So, and I'm speaking for California, you have to justify having another system or being in another location. So you either have to have a business in that other state, or you have to have more people that are what they call on your roster, which is people that have already been approved to be a service provider, because more than one person will justify having an additional machine or additional location.
Okay. Now, the reason that we're doing this today is because, personally, I've looked up live scan, like how do I add it? And there's absolutely no information out there. I mean, it's like the people who do it will tell you you can't do it or you don't want the competition. One thing that I will tell you in my research here in Arizona, and I didn't have time to tell you about this today, Lisa, but I went to the UPS store this morning with all this magic that I was trying to make happen on my computer this weekend. I had a lot of returns because I bought like a bunch of different components for a computer to upgrade, and then some of them didn't work out. So I had to ship them back. And while I was there, it dawned on me like, hey, it's live scan day. And I asked them, do you perform live scan here? Because I remember seeing it. And I was actually told by the UPS store owner that UPS as a whole has backed away from doing live scan. And I thought, wow, what a great entry point for Arizona notaries if the UPS store is not providing the service. Now, there may be some third-party retailers of UPS and FedEx that combine those that provide the live scans, but UPS stores in general, which they're kind of like Starbucks on every corner, right? They're not competing for live scan. That makes it even more, need for the Arizona notaries here. So doing your research, as a business owner is always important. Asking those questions: where can you do it? Where can you get it? Who am I going to be competing with? I want to ask you about equipment, and a lot of people did write in this question. What kind of equipment am I going to need in order to conduct live scan and fingerprinting?
So live scan consists of the laptop. There's a special configured laptop. Then there's, and that's not, that is not state specific. So some states you can buy a laptop and, have it configured through the law enforcement agency or someplace else. But here in California, there's a specific laptop that comes with the live scan scanner and a card reader to scan their ID on. There's some other stuff like you're paying for the software, you're paying for, warranty. There's a few other bells and whistles that you can get. For example, the ink cards can be actually rolled. You can roll their fingers on the live scan machine and then load the special FBI printer with the ink cards and print those fingerprints on the card, as opposed to rolling the fingers manually on the card. So there's a few bells and whistles that you can get. The range for equipment is anywhere from $3,500 up to about $7,000. For
Okay.
ink card, the equipment is super simple. It's probably I would say a $250 investment for manual ink card rolling.
At this point, I just want to make sure that all notaries, because we're a special breed, loan signing agents. When it comes to hearing like, what does it cost, to start up something, when you hear $3,500, that's about what it costs to start up a notary business, truly, if you think about everything you're going to put into it, with all the training that we do, with all of the, if you attend the NNA conference your first year. I want to let you guys know, a lot of you, especially in a downturn market, $3,500 to $7,000 seems like a lot of money. And I will tell you, a business owner makes decisions on, how do I get that financing? Do I save up and then have no debt? Do I put it on a credit card? Do I get a small business loan? There are many resources that are available to you. Also, this is a really great time for my notary groups across the country. Those of you that are working in teams, that have your groups, this is a great time for you to pool your resources to get something like live scan off the ground, where you would get several agents under, approved. So I just want to let you know, like, that sounds like a real big cost, but now I'm going to ask the big question. How long did it, and it goes into financing, how long did it take you from starting to learn about live scan before you were processing your first client and making your money back?
Okay, so that's kind of a two-part question. So once I got the green light, because there's a series of events that have to happen, and the last step is there's a sort of like a in-service appointment between me, the service provider, my vendor, and the Department of Justice, because they have to make sure that my machine is successfully transmitting the transactions and the DOJ is receiving them. So once that happened, 2 days later, I got my first appointment, because the DOJ will list your business on their website for people to find you. Having said that, once I did that, I immediately started working for the National Notary Association as their live scan technician. So that was let's see. It was a great experience, but it was a lot of work. So I fingerprinted 150 to 200 people each week, and I traveled all over the Bay Area. So, there were times where I was driving 3 hours one way for a notary class to live scan, and I also did the passport photos for them, for the students as well. And so that was a lot, but it took away from me running my own business. So that delayed me making money in my own business, and also making the money back from my investment. So I left the NNA in March of this year, and in that same month of March, I made $3 grand from my own efforts of fingerprinting. I spent close to $6 grand for my equipment. So it was probably, I would say, a 6-week turnaround, my return on investment
Okay, so
once I was able to work my business.
got it. This was kind of asked, but it is on the questionnaire, and I want to just kind of reiterate it in a different way. As notaries, we have to really worry about mistakes. And I think a lot of us live with like that gut wrenching feeling like, did I stamp the deed of trust? Or did I, we have little memes on Notary Star's Instagram where it's like the little sleeping beauty with one eye open going, did I sign my name right? What is it like for fingerprinting? I mean, is there a lot of room for error? Can you get in trouble? Can you get sued? um, you know, does it have that same kind of gut wrenching feeling? Like, did I connect the machine right? Or is it easier?
Yes. Before I answer that though, I want to back up because I want to make sure that everyone understands there are certain states where there's particular fingerprint companies that dominate. So some states cannot do live scan at all. All states accept ink cards, but not every state will allow a private service provider to do live scan. So it's important to check, the state that you're in to make sure you can do that in the first place. There is not a lot of room for error. You can, I won't say you can make errors, but there's a small window of a learning curve. So resubmissions, which is if someone comes to you and they have really bad prints, they're too light, or their fingers are all scratched up from just over the years of dealing with paper and whatever else. Sometimes it's almost impossible to capture someone's fingerprints. And so they are going to get a rejection letter, a letter saying, we couldn't read your prints, you need to go back and get them done again. And they will come to you, and that reprint has to be a free service, because they will come with a letter and it will have a code on it that you will use that lets the DOJ and FBI know that they are returning for the service, so they won't charge you for those background checks because they know that the customer is coming back for a free service. There are certain things where the DOJ will shut your system down. The biggest problem is not paying them the fees that you owe them at the end of each month. That is a huge, that is the biggest reason why people's systems get shut down. Shutting a system down means you're out of business. They've shut you down, you're done. So resubmissions, bad business practices, forgetting to do something. Like, for example, I had one guy come in and he was applying for a security guard job with firearm. And we did that. And I know I did it, but on the system, so he had to come back because they said it didn't include firearms. I couldn't check my system because it's a rolling record. So the records only stay on my system for 30 days. And this was early on when I first started rolling prints. So I couldn't go back and check and see if I added the word firearms on his application. So that is where I learned how to keep my records so that I can go back and look, even though it's beyond 30 days.
Okay. So just like a notary, documentation is really important
Absolutely.
to each experience, especially if you want to stay in business.
Yeah, you have to have a log of all of your transactions. So for California, the live scan form that people bring to you, we have to keep a record of that for at least 1 year. And then we also have to keep a log of everyone that has come to us for service as well.
Okay. These last questions are really about marketing, and then we're going to open it up to those who are attending if they have questions. Guys, we do have a lot of people on the call tonight, so if you have questions, I already see Miss Young Jones with her hand raised there. She'll be the first question that we go to. Please get your hands raised virtually in order to get into queue to ask Miss Lisa questions. Miss Beth, if you want to comb the chat, we can go with some of the questions that we see in the chat as well. But I want to go kind of quickly over these because I do sell a marketing course, and I don't want people to think I'm trying to plug a marketing course, but I do have questions related to marketing. First of all, you mentioned earlier that you automatically go on a DOJ list and that you received your first call within 2 days of, basically being put on their website. Who are your customers really? Like, can you give us a rundown of exactly like who the customers are for LiveScan?
Yeah, so most of the customers are individuals. They're, here in California, there's a couple of mandates that passed last year and this year. One was for children. So anyone who works directly with kids 18 and under have to have a background check. They have to have other things as well, but they have to have a background check. So any individual that's, coaches, little league parents, volunteers at schools, pretty much anyone. And then if you're starting a new job, if you're an IHSS in-home support service provider, because that mandate passed this year, where if you're working with the elderly or anyone with disabilities between the ages of 19 and 64, I believe it is, and then anyone over 65, you have to have a background check. So I get a lot of individuals that come to me for various reasons, visas, immigration clearances, a lot of things. And then there's a lot of corporate accounts and groups. I got a call from Pixar Animation Studios here in Emeryville, California, and it turns out they volunteer at one of the school districts. So they called me onto their campus to live scan about 40 of their staff. I have a couple of churches that I live scan. There's a big window of opportunity on, I know my mentor, she provides services to like the gaming industry. So there's ample opportunities out there.
And I think realtors have to have it, military has to have it.
Yeah.
There's a lot, especially if you're in a military, area. All massage therapists have to have it. Notaries have to have it. So there's a lot of industry available. But I want to know like how you find your clients. In what I'm mostly primarily interested in is, as a notary, you have to sign up with like 5,000 signing agencies, and it's like the first year we spend more filling out applications. Are there sites like that for LiveScan where you insert your business into databases that you advertise your business on?
If there are, I haven't found them. I know that I am on several lists from different companies. Apparently there are, especially for the elderly, background checks to take care of the elderly. There are a bunch of lists, because everyone who comes through my doors, I ask them, how did you find me? And they say, oh, my employer gave me a list and your company was on it. So from what I understand, when the DOJ lists you on their site, that gives you the credibility to be listed on other company sites. And so they just generate a list and you're on it. And that's how people find me, basically because I'm the closest in the area, especially for ink card fingerprinting, because they'll get a list, and besides me, the next location is about 50 miles away.
Got it. And then we had a question in the chat earlier from Melissa Dominguez that is kind of going to go along with my question. Are you sectioned off into a region? Like, are you bound to a region? Or let's just say tomorrow you're in Tucson and the next day you're in Phoenix. Can you move from city to city, or are you bound to a region? And then I have a follow-up question to that as well.
You're bound to your state. So as long as you're in the state where you got approval, you can do the fingerprinting.
Got it. And the next thing is, I wanted to kind of ask this. I found this would be a really appropriate and important question for our viewers, because I don't like to put people down a rabbit hole, right? And I'm not talking bad about the apostille craze or anything, but for me, when you perform apostilles, you need to be within a reasonable distance of the Secretary of State's office so you can viably service clients, right? If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you can't get them there, then you're really just can't do them unless you're mailing them away, and you can't do the faster services. With LiveScan, do you think that the area that a notary is located in matters to making that investment? So in the center city of Phoenix, where I'm so blessed to live, versus, if I lived in Prescott, where they had like a much smaller population, would it be good for me to open up a LiveScan business, or would it be a bad business decision or a bad business move to add that in?
I think it depends on your willingness to market yourself. If you're a person who just kind of, like as a notary, you sign up for these signing companies and you just kind of sit back and wait and hope that you can catch one of the alerts, before anybody else, then this probably may not be the best thing for you. Because even though you're in a small area, if you're marketing yourself well, the larger areas will call you. As if you've built relationships with them. So it's no different from being a notary, where you want to build relationships. I actually physically get out and I go to any businesses and I market my services. I walk in and I tell them who I am, and I give them maybe 2 or 3 business cards at the most, but I have little small, they're a little bit larger than a postcard, but they're on postcard paper, and it has my QR code on it. And I suggest to them to put it in a area like, on the counter of their front desk or something like that, for their staff or customers to come in who need it, that they can find me. And I don't get turned away, because it's a service that everybody needs. They may not need it at that moment, but they will need it at some point, because they'll apply for something, and whatever they're trying to do, whatever goal they're trying to achieve, will tell them they need to have a background check. So it's going to happen at some point. And, going to major cities, if they're not super far from you, I would absolutely do that and build those relationships, because then they'll call you when they need it. I've had fire departments call me, just a variety of businesses. So absolutely, if you are a person who is a go-getter, or you don't mind getting out there and talking to people and initiating a conversation, then that is the best thing to do. Even in the Starbucks line, when I get to the barista, I'll hand them my business card, because you just never know where the business is coming from.
You're right. And I'm going to say this, and I want to open it up to the viewers. And this goes back to the notaries, but since we have so many people watching, I'd like to say this. For those RON notaries out there, every RON transaction that I have completed in the last month, I have started saying, please store me in your phone as a notary, or while you're traveling, please contact me again. And I've already got one repeat client out of it. They were doing another transaction and they insisted to do it with me. So start asking, we did that whole community tip about passing out your business cards like pixie dust. We had the notary that leaves them in the gas station credit card, slot. So I like your idea of just, passing out. You never know where that card's going to wind up. And then my new thing is, for Ron, I've started asking every signer that I do, store me in your phone. You no longer have to go looking for a notary. I can pop online with you. It's starting to be a good little business catchphrase for me. Miss Lisa, we're gonna, Miss Beth, if you want to ask any questions that came from the chat.
Yeah, there's a few of them in here.
Can I
first
just
one-
add something really quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that I also have a car magnet on my car doors that has a QR code on it for people to scan so that it'll lead them to my website where they can make an appointment. And I can't tell you how many appointments I've gotten that way as well. And I think personally for me, the key to having your business on a car magnet on your car is to make sure that that magnet is on after hours, because after 4 or 5 p.m. is when most people are now home or in their city from working all day, and they'll be able to see your business. I'm not saying don't advertise during the day. I'm saying keep advertising throughout the day and into the evening so that those people who have been at work all day will know what you provide as well.
You know, I have to say this, and then I really want to go to the questions. If we have anybody that lives in Los Angeles here, you will understand this. So they may be gone, but there used to be a maid service in Los Angeles that they painted their vans neon yellow and neon pink, and they would intentionally park them on the side of the street with their. So it was like having a free billboard. I mean, it just stuck out, and they were a crooked company. Like they were totally shady. But I tried them. Everybody I knew tried them because it was $49, 2 maids for 2 hours or whatever. And they're notorious. But after hours, they would park them there. When everybody was coming home, and they would get the best bend in the street, so you could read it as people were passing by. And I thought it was brilliant marketing, to have your car. And if you do have those magnets, if you park in a garage, I think you're missing out on some of those things. I would park on the street if I was going to take the time to put those magnets on my cars. Of course, sometimes jealous people will steal them, but I just wanted to bring that out because, if you decide to buy a bright colored car, park it somewhere where people can see it. Miss Beth, you said that there were some questions, and what I'd like to do is kind of pepper them between those who've had their hands raised and those chats. So why don't you start with the first question out of the chat there?
So one real basic question for you, Lisa. When we talk about live scan and the equipment that's involved for that, does that mean everybody in the United States has one supplier for the equipment? Do we have choices? Can we shop for that equipment?
So it depends on the state. I know there's some states where they say, yeah, go and find your equipment and then let us know what you got. But for California, because we're super duper strict, we have a approved vendor list, and we can only buy our equipment from those vendors. I think there's 7. I want to say there's 7 of them that we can only choose from.
Okay, thank you for that. One other question, and then Celia's hand's probably getting tired. She's been up there for a while. The other question then is the process to get started is applying with the DOJ. Is there training or certification courses that you are required to attend in order to be a certified fingerprinter?
So, excuse me. For California, we are required to have a fingerprint rolling certificate. And from what I understand, we are the only state that requires this certificate. Everyone else does not have to have it. But there are some other requirements that are state specific. For us, we have the fingerprint rolling certificate. You simply apply for it. You get a background check. And if you don't have a criminal history, you can get approved. That doesn't mean that you know how to roll prints or know anything about the fingerprinting industry. The certificate just simply says that you have been approved to roll prints. So at that point, if you want it, you could go out to like a UPS store. You could work for them and learn how to roll fingerprints there or someplace else. And then there's a separate step to apply to become a service provider, which is owning your own live scan business. And that's a separate process that has several steps to go through in order to end up with the live scan equipment and the green light from the DOJ saying that you can do it.
Perfect. And one other question, so everybody in the chat doesn't have a coronary. They want to know how to get in touch with you, Lisa. And then if you'll give us that info, I'll put it in the chat, and then we'll go to the first question up there.
Sure. You can get in touch with me through, you can send me an email directly. I would love to give you my phone number, but I have to save it for my customers. So my email is livescan at get1stclass.service. So instead of the word first, so it's get first class service. That's my website as well, getfirstclassservice.com. But it's 1ST instead of the word first.
All righty, perfect. Thank you so much. I think we're ready to start with questions from the gallery. And I'm looking at that, and I don't know if that's Celia or Celicia. I think you should be able to unmute.
Hey, hi. I can't unmute.
You're
There I am.
unmuted.
Okay, there you go. So good unmute. Hi, yes, it's Felicia, brand new Notary Star participant tonight. I'm just could not be any happier, and this could not be any more timely because I actually pulled the trigger today and bought a live scan machine from Fulcrum Biometrics out in Texas. So, you know, I'm just really so excited to get all of this great information from you. Are you also an FBI channeler?
No, but the well, I am through my vendor.
Okay.
So they will send those clients to me.
So when you say you're on the DOJ website, have you been able to tell from your own SEO that have you gotten a bump from this, from your own SEO, like on your Google Analytics and stuff, that are you getting a bump out of this to be on a DOJ website?
Absolutely. And I'm also listed. So when someone types in the zip code here, my business is the first one that comes up.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I just got a brand new brick and mortar location. So, you know, even though these things are small enough that you can make them portable. Yes. Man, thanks. Thank you. Great chat tonight. Thank you so much.
And I have to tell you, Celicia, so here's a tip for everyone. If you decide to become, to do ink cards along with live scan, because in the beginning, ink cards kind of intimidated me. But if you decide to do both, check to see if your vendor can provide you with the printer for the ink cards. Because then if you can get the printer, then you can roll their prints on your live scan machine and print those on the ink card instead of just physically putting their fingers in ink and rolling them on the cards.
Perfect. All righty, Mr. Andrew, you are up next. You want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure, can you hear me?
You betcha.
All right, I have a few questions. I have a little bit of a background in this in a different area, but I was kind of curious, the log and the file that you have to hold for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a requirement from DOJ and FBI?
That is for California. Like
For
I said,
California?
each state is different, but yes, here we have to do that.
Is that because, I'll take a little tiny rabbit hole. Is that because if that file needs to be extracted, they're gonna go to the main source of that file? Because I guess when someone uploads their fingerprint from the live scan, isn't it loaded out real quickly to DOJ and FBI?
Yeah, it's loaded electronically. So
Okay.
when someone comes to me and I take their prints, I immediately submit. We generally have 24 hours to submit them. But I submit them immediately and their background checks done in a matter of probably 48 hours or less.
And earlier you were talking about like we have mistakes in notary. Oh my gosh, we forgot to stamp this or whatever. But in a fingerprint or a thumbprint, there's a certain amount of points that represent a full print, right, on the machine?
Well, not points, but the fingers get a certain letter grade.
Okay. Okay.
So, a green is you rolled the perfect print. And then the colors kind of change and it goes from like A to E.
Okay.
And that's just depending on the type of print that the person has. If it's, their fingers are pretty worn out, then you may not capture a good print. And so you'll get a different letter grade.
Okay. And then in regards to you were talking about ink card. So from machine to an ink card, how's the quality from a live scan from the machine to putting it on a card? Is the quality there to do that?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's why you want to get an FBI approved printer, because that's how the quality is good.
And finally, my last thing is in regards to, I guess, a little bit of competition besides UPS and whomever. What about sheriff or police departments? Can folks that want to be a school teacher go to the sheriff department and get their live scan? And what's their pricing compared to, let's say, your pricing? Is that even an issue at all, or?
It's not. Yes, people can go to the sheriff's office, but a couple of things. At least for the sheriff's office here, they only do fingerprints on a certain day of the week. It's a certain person who does it, and that person is not always in the office. The second issue is not everyone wants to pull up into a police department and get their fingerprints taken. The act of getting fingerprinted already makes people nervous. Add that component of them going into the sheriff's office.
That's okay. All
That
right.
makes
So
sense.
it's not a big issue.
Okay. That's all. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. We've got just about 6 minutes left. 3 people still have their hands raised. So hopefully we're gonna be able to get those questions answered before we thank Lisa for her giving us her time. So the next one up, I'm not sure if it's Lee or Leah. You want to unmute and ask your question?
It's Leah.
There we go. Thank you, Leah. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity, because I also have a live scan fingerprinting services that I offer. And I wanted to ask a question in regards to your marketing strategies. So I've been out marketing to a lot of vendors, and sometimes I get a lot of pushback, kind of to piggyback up on what the previous gentleman said about going to maybe the sheriff's office or going to over here in Florida. I'm located in Florida. They have fingerprinting at the courthouses and things like that. Have you ever faced any pushback on your fees versus what they could potentially pay at one of those facilities?
No, I mean, I've had, I maybe had 2 people so far that have said, well, actually, I have a perfect example for you. So a lot of people, the way that we get paid as service providers is we have a rolling fee. And there's our rolling fee, and then there's the FBI and DOJ fees, or the FDLE or the Nevada fees. So people always think when they see the rolling fee being, $25 or $40 or $50, that that's all they need to pay. They don't understand that they have to pay for the background check from the DOJ or FBI or FDLE or whoever. And so they'll come to me and they'll, and I'll tell them, okay, that'll be $84. And they're like, oh, wait, I thought it was 25 or I thought it was 35. And I have to explain to them, the 35 is my rolling fee. The rest of the charges is what you have to pay the DOJ and FBI for their fee for the background check. So that's where that comes from. As far as pushback, I guess you could term it that. I don't, because it is what it is. I have to pay those fees to the FBI and DOJ at the end of each month. So I'm not providing you service if you don't want to pay that. I'm going to tell you go to somewhere else. And because my rates are competitive, they're going to go somewhere else and pay maybe a $2 difference.
Right.
But they're still going to pay those fees. So
Okay, so a follow-up question to you is, what is your typical profit margin off of each fingerprint that you do? So obviously you have, in your situation, you have rolling fees, you have DOJ that you have to pay. What's your typical profit margin off of every print that you make?
So
Or average?
for live scan, I think my profit margin is larger because the DOJ's fee for a background check is $32. The FBI's fee here is $17. My rolling fee is $35. The
Okay.
range here is, I've seen as low as $15 up to as high as $50. For ink cards, my profit margin is 100% because that whole fee goes straight to me. I don't have to pay the DOJ or FBI for any portion of those ink cards.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your answering my questions. I really appreciate it. Good luck.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck with your business as well.
Thank you.
Miss Lisa, I'm gonna have to leave this meeting. Miss Beth is gonna continue to ask the questions, but before I go, everybody, I just wanted to make an announcement with you because we want to make sure that we do this, and then I have to do something that you don't even know I'm gonna do. So please hold those questions. I just want to do this while before I head out from this meeting. So on June 1st, I am proud to say this. First of all, let me explain. Miss Lisa has created a course on how to do live scan and ink card fingerprinting, which I have already had access to. She is offering real-time mentorship during that course, just like we do at Notary Stars. She is a Notary Star, so I know she knows the style and she's taken that to heart. We will be launching that on June 1st, and we'll be sending out to everybody who watches the replay, anybody that's on our subscribing list, how to access that course, all of that information. And I personally want to kick you off with your first student coming out of Notary Stars. So whatever that course cost, the combo course, I'd like to do a raffle now. Now the chat's turned off, and we're going to play this raffle, and I'm going to think of a number, and whoever gets closest to that number, by the time I turn the chat off, I will personally buy that course for them from you, because I've already gotten to see it, right? Like, I helped you build the website. We're doing all those things together. So technically I've already taken the course, so I can at least pay it forward since I've had access to privileged information. And I would like to, for all of those that are attending live that stay here for all of this, I'm going to turn on the chat, but before I do, I am thinking of a number between 1 and 124. Go.
Oh, it's so exciting. Thank you.
Okay, somebody got it. I'm turning it off. Somebody already has it. And I just want to make sure that there's not two of them. The very first person to type in the number, there were two people, but the very first person that typed in the number, I'm going back through, just making sure. There's actually three people who got the number. The very first person in the chat to type in the number 124 was David Golka. So David, when the course launches on June 1st, you will be the recipient of the combo course for live scan and the ink card fingerprinting, and that will be compliments of Notary Stars. I wanted to get that announcement in. Guys, I actually have a side hustle that I have to run out and do. It's something that I do. I've already explained that to Miss Lisa. Miss Beth, I'm going to let you take over and take us home tonight with the rest of the questions. But David, if you could send me an email to contact@notarystars.com, I will be happy to set you up once that class goes live. And then Miss Lisa, did you have anything else you wanted to add about that class going live?
Yes, when it goes live, I will be offering 10% off through June 1st through the 15th for everyone here.
Awesome.
Oh,
And
wow.
would that be everybody at Notary Stars or everybody that watches the replay? Because this is going to go on YouTube tomorrow.
That's anyone and everyone here. So anyone who's a part of Notary Stars who is watching this now, will watch the replay, you all get 10% off.
Okay. All right. And we will make sure that everyone is on our subscription list. So if you're here tonight, you're definitely on it. If you're on our YouTube channel, you got to go to notarystars.com and make sure you're subscribed. If you're a member, you're already subscribed. If you don't get our emails, make sure you subscribe, because we will let you know, and we will make sure you know how to get to that new website. Miss Lisa does have her website for her business, but we built one specifically for the students with an entire journey. So you'll be able to go to that website when it launches. I'm going to let you guys get back to questions. Thank you for letting me interrupt there. And Miss Beth, I'm going to let you take everybody home tonight.
Well,
Thank you,
Mr.
Ronnie.
So we have a couple of more questions. Adina, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
A couple questions, of course. What is the I know you probably are gonna wait for this, but what do you all have, like a range of a fee that is going to be for the class you all are launching June 1st? That can be the last question, but the other question is, you were speaking about a list. Wanted to know, like, directly who would you go to find out if you can, of course, perform the services in your state? Is it the Department of Justice? Is it the Secretary of State? Like, where would be the first place to look to get that information to see if you can even do this in your state?
So each state has their own agency that you will need to contact in order to find out if you can be a service provider. What state are you in?
Alabama.
Oh, interesting. I have somebody, one of my good friends from Alabama is on the call today. And I know that Alabama does both, but I think the biggest market is the ink card fingerprinting.
Okay. And there wouldn't be a specific place to know where to get that from, the information from, or?
I don't know it off the top of my head,
Okay.
but yes, there is a specific agency. I think it's a law enforcement agency that you go through in order to get that approval.
Okay, now what you were speaking about on the certificate to get a fingerprint roll certificate, is that what it's called, and is that specific for state of California, or is that general?
Yeah, that's specific to the state of California from what I've been told. And I
Okay.
haven't, during my research, I haven't found any other states that require a rolling certificate.
Okay, so, and the reason why I'm asking is because this is very strange. I tell you, about 3 months ago, I received an evite to a live actual training that they were having here in Birmingham, and the young lady was from Florida, and she was like, you want to get ahead of this and you want to get on with this now. And I was skeptical then because I was, thinking about how you were saying with the marketing and, getting out there, and versus, of course, being a notary signing agent and you waiting on the services to come to you for what they're looking for. And now I'm thinking I missed out on that opportunity, because it really wasn't that much, they were charging to take the class. But it was like, now I'm thinking back on, I'm like, dang, I could have been doing this months ago and have already gotten started. But the last question I had asked was in regards to the fee. When you say 10% off, have you all set a fee yet, or is that information not even being talked about?
We're still narrowing down the actual price.
Okay, okay. Well, I guess that will be it. I guess I would just have to find out specific information for my state and see how I can get started, I guess.
I definitely want to tell you though, you want to be careful of the scams out there, because there's people who say that they, will train you, or that they have the right equipment, or, whatever they'll say. You definitely want to make sure that you're going through the proper channels. I know California is and will always be the strictest state for pretty much anything, because we just have a lot of fraud and identity theft here. But you just want to take that precaution and make sure you're dealing with reputable people.
Yeah, and that was my skepticism at that point, but she allowed me to drill her and she gave me a lot of information. Like, I still have in my history saved the websites that I went to get the equipment to get set up. Like, she provided a lot of information that she didn't even have to provide, and she gave me a lot of credentials in regards to where I could research and find out about her and everything. So I mean, the way I got into this, I actually been in the law field, so I'm skeptical about everything with everybody anyway. So I just don't get involved with a lot of people dealing with that because I know how scams go. I worked for the district attorney's office for years and I was a probation officer as well. So I already know about all of that. So that's the reason why I was skeptical. But now that I'm thinking back on it, um, I wished I would have, you know, I guess got into it if I even need that training, you know, because I still don't know if I want to get involved in it. But I'm not going to take up too much more time. I'm going to go ahead and let someone else ask their questions. But this was very informative, and I greatly appreciate you all providing this for us. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're
Adina,
welcome.
and it may not be a missed opportunity yet, right?
Mhm.
Still could be in the future, but thanks for
Absolutely.
asking your question. Linda, if you want to unmute and ask your question, and guys, we're running over time. We're right at 10 minutes after. So if you can leave your questions pretty short and succinct so we can get through Veronica. We got Maurice and Veronica right behind that, and that's all the questions we're going to take this evening, and then we've got to wrap this up. Go ahead, Linda. Thanks. Try it again.
There we go. It wasn't letting me. Okay, my question was, what vendor did you get your machine from? Because I have noted, I've looked up that, and I know there's like several, and it's like, well, who's got a good one, who doesn't, so as to the machine for the electronic, fingerprints.
I used Biometrics for All. I was very impressed with their presentation and their reach. So they provide the live scan to the military and other, overseas, other countries, and just different, like they have a really wide range that they service. And when I compared them with another company, So here in California, we have what they call relay fees. So
Uh-huh.
there is a peer provider who is the middleman, and when I send my submission, background check submission to the DOJ, it actually goes through the peer provider and then to the DOJ, and we're talking a matter of like milliseconds. But the peer provider charges you a fee for that happening. And in comparison, biometrics, when I compared them with another company, the other company charged $10 per transaction. Biometrics for all charges 75 cents per transaction.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big issue for me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, that was my question. Thank you.
Perfect.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Linda. All right, and Maurice, Mr. Maurice, if you want to unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Hey, how you doing, everyone? Lisa, my question would be, because I do have a vendor that's in mind out of Florida. But I guess some people on the platform here this evening don't know that this equipment, with well-established credit, can be financed also. Am I correct on that?
It can be. I'm not sure. Well, yes, it can be financed. You just want to make sure that that is something that fits your specific situation. I decided to purchase mine just because I don't like having a bill. But also the machines can last up to 10 years. And I wanted to own mine. So I don't like having payments.
Perfect. That would be my choice too. I'm with you, Lisa. I don't want to have another ball and chain following me around. And
Yes.
then last question for today is coming from Veronica. Veronica, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thanks for all the information. I just wanted to know if you have to have insurance for this, if you have to be insured.
Wow, good
You
question.
absolutely should be. I have personal liability. I have 2 million aggregate, 2 million, whatever that thing is, 2 million, 2 million. But yes, it's just like notary, you want to make sure that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. You absolutely should have insurance.
And do you do loan? You were a loan signing agent as well, right?
Yes.
So can you think it's manageable to do both or just one or the other?
It is manageable. The setup that I have, because I have a co-working space, there's a receptionist there. And when I'm out on a mobile appointment or on a loan signing, people will come through looking for live scan, and I have QR codes at the front desk. So if someone comes in and I'm not there, they can scan the code and book their appointment for a better time for both of us. And sometimes while they're standing there, if I'm not there, they'll actually call me to find out if I'm on my way back to the office, then they'll just wait for me. So yeah, it's absolutely manageable to do all of the above. You just have to, be on top of your time management.
One last question. For the training, how long do you think it would take? Is it ongoing or is it just a couple of times or just one time or?
The training course is just shy of an hour, but it's probably one that you'll refer to a lot just because there's so many things to know. There's terminology and language in the fingerprinting industry that you'll need to know that I go over. There's the different types of fingerprints. There's the different agencies, and then I talk about all of the business opportunities that are available, how you can set yourself up to be found by a lot of these companies. And I go over like what things you need to have in place while you're waiting for approval, because that was something that I learned the hard way, trying to figure that out. So I cover a lot.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks for those wonderful questions. Everybody kind of lit up the chat a little bit earlier. Lisa, we didn't get to all of them, but some of them were pretty detailed things that we just didn't have time for today. But thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you, Lisa, for being here and taking the time to just let us almost interrogate you. Isn't that crazy? That was not an interview. That was an interrogation. We're going to do our signature wave. Everybody, turn on your cameras. We have to do what Mr. Ronnie Mickles says. If you are not naked or eating a sandwich or pasta or dinner stuffing your face, turn on your cameras, and we're going to give Lisa our signature wave. Let me get to gallery here. I've got one person I've got to mute here, so give me one quick second. Okay.
Thank you so much
guys,
for having me.
We're all in the same storm. We are not in the same boat. Some of us have yachts, some of us have canoes, and some of us are dog paddling. So please just remember to reach back and grab the hand of that notary next to you that might be struggling and bring them along your journey with you. Give them Lisa's name. Okay, guys. Have a good evening, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
next
Thanks,
time.
everybody.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, everybody.